Summer is winding down, and that means soon it will be time to head back to school. So what is the state of education in Michigan? Plus a proposal to change the way Detroit schools are run. Should the mayor play a role? And sparks could fly at state political conventions this weekend. And a deal coming together for the Detroit Water Department. It's analysis of news across the state. MiWeek starts right now.
Recently, Michigan's economy has begun to turn around. Michigan's gained over 250,000 new jobs. We've paid off $20 billion in long-term debt. And our population is increasing for the first time in a decade. But to make Michigan a top 10 state, there's still plenty of work to be done. Step up and help put Michigan on top. Learn what you can do at MichiganTurnaroundPlan.com.
Funding is also provided by Delta.
Welcome to MiWeek, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. The countdown has started for parents everywhere. It is almost back to school time. For months, we've heard about budget problems in districts across the state, Common Core and other curriculum concerns, and even issues about teacher evaluations and training. But what's most important to parents, teachers, and students? We'll take a look at top concerns with education in Michigan. Plus, a new idea to centralize operations of Detroit's public school system with the mayor in charge. Could this plan really come together? Michigan Republicans and Democrats hold their conventions this weekend. Both could prove quite interesting. And could the city of Detroit and the suburbs be close to a deal on a regional water authority? It is all coming up. But we do begin with a look at the state of education in Michigan. Less than 2 weeks until it's time to pack lunches and load up the carpool. And here with a look at the biggest concerns for education across our state are MiWeek contributors. Nolan Finley, the editorial page editor of the Detroit News, and sitting in for Stephen Henderson is Nancy Kaffer, columnist with the Detroit Free Press. It's good to see both of you. Nance, welcome back to MiWeek.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so let's launch into this because I can't believe it's almost back to school time. But I have to say that my three kids, they're ready to go. It's time to get them back out and back in school. But talking about the state of our education system here in Michigan, I asked both of you to come up with a list this week that we could talk about your top three, I think, concerns about where we're going. So I'm going to start with Nolan with your list. So let's go ahead and take a look at what you had to say. All right, so your concerns were the MEA and state school board marginalizing charters, no commitment on child-focused reform, and crushing legacy costs. Why did you come up with those three? Start with the first one.
With the first one, I think what you're seeing now is an orchestrated attempt to marginalize charters and to convince people that charters are failures, are not working as well as they should. That's true of some schools. It's not true of most schools. And you know, this is a orchestrated attempt by the MEA and its members on the Detroit or on the Michigan School Board. And instead of sort of figuring out how they help these schools get better, help all schools better. Remember, only 50 schools in Michigan, or 50 public schools in Michigan, were rated proficient last year, met all the proficiency goals. And I think for the state school board to be focused entirely on one set of schools and not on the greater problem that we're not doing a good job anywhere in Michigan in educating our children is not going to get us where we need to be.
Nancy, we'll go through your list in a minute, but I know that you had charters actually on the top of your list as well. Do you agree with Nolan's assessment?
I don't, Christy. As we're all aware, the Free Press did a big series on charter schools that point out a lot of the problems with charters and has sort of led to this push for reform. The thing about charters is many of them do very well, very high performing, but 38% of charters are in the bottom quarter of rankings of schools statewide. Why is it okay to have all these restrictions on charters or to, first of all, we don't have a lot of restrictions on charters. They've operated without a lot of the same oversight that public schools are required to do. A lot of these reforms are simply asking them to be more transparent about the $1 billion a year in taxpayer money that they get, how it's spent, and for the educational institutions that authorize charters to bear some responsibility for the academic performance of the schools that they have given their seal of approval to. You know, charters were supposed to be a better alternative to public schools. They were supposed to offer parents who were stuck in failing districts a really good alternative to the districts they're stuck in. So if they're going to deliver the same, unacceptable results as those districts, why are they siphoning money out of the public school system?
All right, so the legislature is probably going to have to tackle some of these issues when they come back in the fall. Let's take a look at your list again, Nolan, and go to the second thing on Nolan's list in terms of concerns for education in Michigan. No commitment to child-focused reform. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I'm not sure that when we are talking about reform, the focus is on kids and what kids need and what's in the best interest of children. I still think we're caught up in adult issues and adult fights. One small example, you mentioned your kids are ready to go back to school, chomping at the bit to get there. Michigan is one of the few states that limits the start of school to after Labor Day. Most other states, kids are already in school right now. The districts have the flexibility to set schedules that are based on what's best for these children. And in Michigan, we passed that law not for education reasons, but for tourist reasons, because we felt it would be beneficial to the tourist industry. And I think across the board, you can see our reform efforts getting caught up in turf wars, political fights, partisan differences, and not truly focused on, okay, this state, this state, this state are doing things right. Why don't we model them? We're still fighting over silly things.
What about that focus on kids, Nancy?
Well, a lot of things boil down to folks being really resistant to change. Nolan is talking about how late the school year starts. Research is pretty clear that what's best for kids is year-round school. The loss, summer learning loss it's called, is a recognized phenomena. Teachers have to spend the first, 2 months of the school year teaching kids stuff they taught them the year before, because when you give them 3 months off in the middle of the year, they forget things. A model more like what the British have, where there are 6-week breaks, a couple of 6-week breaks throughout the year, a couple of 2-week breaks, seems to be a lot more conducive to kids retaining information. People are very resistant to change because we've always had summer vacation. Some people like that nice long break. Other people hate it and would really like it. But I think most people are very resistant to changing things. But yeah, this education reform should absolutely be driven by what's best for kids.
It has become a political fight in Michigan. It doesn't matter how sensible the change. It now breaks down into a partisan fight to one side here, one side there, without anybody really stopping and weighing the merits of the reform and looking at where it might work. I mean, there are education models that are working. You don't have to start all over. Why don't we take a look at what states who are making good progress, what they're doing?
Well, and some districts have gone to a year-round school. They'll take one certain maybe elementary school within their district, and I know that there are some areas that are doing pilot programs, so we'll watch those. Let's look at the third thing on your list, because I want to get to Nancy's list, concerns on education. So crushing legacy costs, something that we've been talking about a while.
Yeah, I mean, an increasing amount of the money, the per pupil money that is awarded to schools is going to pay health care for retirees, pensions, health care for current workers. We keep talking about money for schools. The money's been going up rather steadily every year, but so have the cost, these legacy costs. They're outpacing the amount of new money that's going into education. So we can say, oh, we're putting $300 more per pupil into these districts. That doesn't all go to the classroom. A lot of it, up to half of it, in some districts every year gets skimmed off for these legacy costs. We've got to do something to get under control. We're going to be right in the same place the city of Detroit was with their costs, and we've made almost no progress in that area.
Nancy?
Well, and the fact is, it's not just that legacy costs are going up, it's that the state has transferred more of those costs to the individual districts. So you have a situation where the increase to the per pupil allowance for a lot of districts turns into a net loss because the amount that they're contributing toward pensions and retiree health care has gone up.
Yeah, actually, that's not true. Snyder has made a point of paying down or advance paying a lot of the pension costs so that they're in somewhat better shape on the pension side of the equation than they were before. He's paid off a lot of that unfunded pension liability, not just for the teachers, but for the state as a whole. It's just, I mean, the school districts caught the same bind every other employer is. Healthcare costs are skyrocketing.
Last word on this, Nancy, then we're going to get to your list.
I agree that legacy costs are an issue, but the districts are paying more. That is true.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look. Nancy, what is your list, your top 3 concerns? We already talked a little bit about charter reform, so I'm going to bounce to the second one. Implementation of the Common Core and the continued battle over this.
When we talk about best practices and doing things that other states are doing, or even looking at what other countries are doing, Every country that we are competing with globally has a clearly articulated set of standards, national standards, that students are expected to meet. And let's be really clear that the Common Core is not curriculum. Curriculum is would still be chosen at the district level, the state. It would be set just the way it is now. But the core standards are a set of educational goals that students need to be able to meet to say that they've completed the required coursework for the year. All the countries we're competing with have this. We have currently a real patchwork of educational standards. If you get a high school degree in Maryland, it may be not worth worth more than it is from a high school degree in Michigan. A high school degree in Mississippi, you can't compete with these places because our standards are so all over the place. That's true, Nolan. That's why the whole
Michigan worked very hard. A lot of people worked very hard a few years ago to get the Michigan merit curriculum passed and in place, and it's a very good curriculum. The problem is up to 40% of school districts won't implement it. Well, they keep ignoring the standards, and Common Core is, I fear, is going to meet the same fate in Michigan. You're going to have districts nodding and saying, yeah, we'll do this, and they just don't implement.
Well, and that's one of my concerns, because even at the legislative level, we had this 11th hour attempt last year to stop implementation of Common Core. This year, legislators successfully put the kibosh on the test that goes with Common Core. So now we have these core standards coming in, but the test that's meant to measure whether or not kids are learning to those standards is not going to be given.
Yeah,
so
they're bringing back the MEP, and they've got to kind of patchwork that together, and that's going to be a conversation that we're going to have an entirely different show, which I think is a massive concern. Let's go to your third concern for education. Emergency management is not a good tool to fix schools.
This ties into a little bit of what Nolan was talking about with legacy costs. We see districts that are in terrible problems. They're losing students. The revenue are dropping. We see more districts getting emergency managers. And I'm not real convinced. Benton Harbor's the last one to be in a state review. I'm not convinced that the emergency manager is a great tool to fix a school district. Look at DPS. It's been under emergency management for how long now? And the district is still just announced that they're going to cut salaries by 10%, close more schools. I mean, these are, in some senses, for a city, emergency managers make more sense. If you need a man to pick up garbage, you pay a man to pick up garbage, right? You have to maybe pay him more. You have to cut your debt. You have to free up revenue. You need more houses demolished, you pay to have them demolished. Everything that happens in a school district, it's so much more complicated. And what goes into whether or not a child is learning, what happens in the classroom is a little piece of that process. So you can balance the books, but does that lead to better educational outcomes for kids? And do the things that you are doing to balance the books contribute to a better classroom experience for kids? And I'm just concerned that it's just not the right way to handle a struggling district.
And you bring up Detroit, and that is a great segue into this next conversation to an interesting proposal that was outlined by Excellent Schools Detroit. The group thinks that centralized city enrollment would work and that the mayor's office could manage the opening and closing of all publicly funded schools in the city, including charter schools. Could this really be a solution? Now, this was floated last week at a board meeting from Excellent Schools Detroit. The mayor has said, well, I have a lot of things, or his spokespeople have said, we have a lot of things on our plate. We really can't commit to that. But I think it's interesting that this comes out, because you have to know that there had to have been some backing, or there's some support for this in some place.
Well, I don't know if there is. I haven't found it. I don't think there's much support in the governor's office. And this is a good group. Excellent Schools Detroit is a good group. And in theory, it's a fine proposal. But let's remember, I mean, you're saying let's turn the school over basically to the mayor. Look what happened to the city over the last 20 years. I mean, I don't know where we think that.
Well, this is a new mayor in all fairness.
But this is not a 4-year change. This is a permanent change. And you look what happened in New York City when the mayor changed and reform started being dismantled. There's a couple things that I like about this proposal. I think the centralized enrollment and transportation would help a lot. You have a lot of kids who are trapped in a neighborhood with a bad school, would like to go to a school in another place, and can't get transportation there, particularly if it's a charter school. The other thing I don't like about it is, it now catches the schools up in mayoral politics. How many new charter schools do you think are going to be started by a mayor who, and I'm not saying this mayor, could be the next mayor, but a mayor who is beholden to the unions? I don't think there's enough independence in this plan. And my third point is that the mayor's right. He's got his hands full.
Nancy, what do you think about this when you heard this?
I think that that last point is the most salient point here. That he's not a superhero. He's just been elected mayor of an incredibly complicated city with a lot of problems. He doesn't even have full control over the city at this point. We have to do something differently about DPS because what's been being done is not working. And there are still 48,000 kids in that school district that are being failed. Not entirely across the board. There are still students getting good educations and going on to do good things, but there far too many kids are being failed by the district at this point. Something has to change. You know, we have currently a very capable, dynamic mayor, but there's got to be a limit to how many things he can have on his plate at one time and do them well. Is this something he could do? I don't know. It's worth talking about, but I'm not sure it's the right way to go.
Worth talking about and maybe making the point or understanding that the revitalization of the city has to also now include the education component, because we talked a lot about blight, we've talked about moving people down, we've talked about opening more business, but education has been, and the school system has been kind of at the bottom part of that
really
conversation.
Wanted to talk about it. It's been sort of the forgotten piece of this puzzle, but if you're going to create a dynamic middle-class population again in the city, you have to have working public schools, because people can't come in here and afford to pay. Everybody can't afford to pay for a private school education.
Nancy, last word on this.
Yeah, absolutely. You can knock down every blighted structure in Detroit. You can get a bajillion young people to move downtown, and unless you can fix the schools, none of it matters.
All right. You know, both the Republicans and Democrats will hold state party conventions this week. It seems like sparks could fly at both. Let's start first with the Republicans and a little bit of jockeying. Nolan, I'm going to start with you on is it GOP establishment versus Tea Party? Yeah. Are we making too much of what could be a potential battle here in essentially choosing Governor Snyder's running mate again?
I think that issue was settled at the county convention votes a week or so ago. I think Brian Kelly has the votes to hold his position. What worrisome for Republicans is how much of a stink and how much of a raucous the Tea Party folks are going to make, and how embarrassing is that going to be, and distracting that's going to be for the governor at a time when he's kicking off his campaign. But you know, there's the fight between the Tea Party and the establishment seems to have settled on a very minor race. That's the University of Michigan Regents race, where you have a couple of Tea Party folks, Dan Horning and Rob Steele, who have just been trying to destroy Ron Weiser, who wants the nomination. And Weiser's a guy who's raised tens of millions of dollars for the Republicans, orchestrated their 2010 sweep in Michigan, and you know, now they're treating him as if you know, he just walked in the door.
It's a little inside baseball for us, Nolan. Thank you. You know, but I think it's interesting, Nancy. Are people watching this convention this weekend, especially for the Republicans, to see how this party comes together, or if there still be these two sides?
Is the average person watching that? I don't think so. Are political operatives watching it? Absolutely. I think, you know, some folks on the GOP side have denied that there's a civil war in the party. When you had at the Oakland County Republican Convention, the establishment leadership hired Waterford police to patrol the convention to ensure that there was no disruption from the sort of Tea Party folks who were trying to take the delegates at that convention. It's really hard to look at that and say, even if there's a bit of eye rolling about the hiring of the police force, it's still yeah, there's some real schism happening there. Though I think most Republicans I've talked to aren't particularly worried, don't particularly think that Brian Kelly is in much danger. One pretty knowledgeable guy I talked to said, "I feel like if I should be worried, I would be worried." But it's still it's a real interesting dynamic that you know, what they really want to do, the Tea Party folks, is get at Governor Snyder, but they can't. So they're trying to knock out his choice of lieutenant governor, who seems to be more conservative than the governor, though folks on the Democratic side of the aisle are probably guffawing about Governor Snyder being too liberal. But it's a real, yeah, it's very inside baseball. And I think, yes, that folks who work in campaigns are going to be watching this, because the Democrats are going to want to make a lot of hay of whatever happens. But
all right, let's talk about the Democrats a little bit, Nolan. Things seem like there could be a little bit of waves here, but at the Supreme Court race level.
Yeah, and at another really race you don't often pay attention to.
But we should, though, because again,
of course, it's one of the
Supreme
most
Court.
important offices in the state, but it's probably 60–70% of folks actually vote at that part of the ballot. But anyway, you know, there's two open seats. There's 3 seats up for grabs, and one open seat. Democrats have settled on Rick Bernstein of the Call Sam family. The other seat, in the other race, they've got Deb Thomas from the Circuit Court, but there was that third seat that they were looking for a candidate for, and the trial lawyers recruited Bill Murphy from West Michigan, from the Court of Appeals, got Shower to sign off on it, got Lon Johnson to sign off on it. Turns out he's pro-life, which has just sent the Women's Caucus and the Justice Caucus through the roof. And there's all week been this battle royal going on amongst Democrats over how it's going to look for a guy who's running a campaign, based on the war on women, to nominate a pro-life Supreme Court justice. It would seem like the Supreme Court would be where that position matters the most.
Nance?
Oops. I mean, yeah. What do you say about that? Yeah. No. I mean, people get very head up about whether or not their state legislator or their, gubernatorial candidate is pro-life or pro-choice. It matters a little bit at the state level. The Supreme Court, yeah, that's where this stuff really is important. So.
All right. One thing I want to get to before we end the show is really one of the biggest stumbling blocks in turning around Detroit's finances, the operation of the Detroit Water and Sewage Department. Talks have been going on for months, with the suburbs most concerned about legacy costs and the high rate of unpaid water bills in the city. Now it seems like a deal could be done in the next couple of weeks, and that's what actually Nolan reported earlier this week. Nancy, I'm going to start with you. Talk to me about the significance of perhaps getting this deal done in the next 2 weeks, which coincides with the bankruptcy process.
Well, in the first iteration of the bankruptcy plan, it included revenue from the water department under a regional authority. They would get $47 million a year in revenue from a regional authority. That number has not been included in subsequent plans. I think once it became clear negotiations were not going quite as smoothly as hoped. So this is not, and I think it was because to not impede the settlement of the bankruptcy. Obviously much better if all this can get worked out as soon as possible. Regional authority is so much better than private management of the system. And I've been pretty confident that they will get a deal done. It just has to sort of go through all the gnashing of teeth and wailing that has to happen.
All right, Nolan, you get the last word on this, since you have a little bit more detail on this.
Yeah, I mean, they've found $50 million from efficiencies in the system and refinancing. That money will be used to offset Detroit's expenses, its pension pay down expenses, free up $50 million they can use elsewhere, use in the general fund, use for whatever they want. That was key to getting this deal done, and the suburbs weren't about to pay a Detroit premium in the beginning, but now they've found a way to get that money out of the system so it doesn't have to come directly from ratepayers, and I think that's what sealed the deal. They've also limited future rate hikes to 4% a year. That was important to the suburbs, and they've created a six-person board with one appointee from each of the counties and the state and 2 from Detroit, but it'll take 5 votes on any decision before it can pass, and so that sort of soothed the suburban concerns. I think you're going to see a deal announced very quickly.
All right, we'll be watching for that. Hey, Nancy, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. It's always great to have you here. Nolan, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. That's all the time we have for MiWeek. You will find us on Facebook and Twitter and at MiWeek.org. For all of us here at Detroit Public Television, I'm Christy McDonald. We will see you next week. Take care.